This is my family 26 years ago. And I think it is very important that as we go through this, just be thinking about, are we talking to our children, our other children, about what our plans are, okay? This was a real aha that happened to me when the little one came in, the little one in the pink, came into my room when she was 9 and said, "Daddy, I hate myself." I said, "What do you mean?" She says, "Well, I don't want to take care of Amanda." And I was like, "Well, why do you think you would have to take care of Amanda?" And she said, "Well, Mommy's taking care of Grandma, and my wife is a girl-boy-girl family, and we're a girl-boy-girl family." And she assumed that that was going to be her role, to care for Amanda. And, I often feel that, everything that we do is so hush-hush, right? We don't talk about it. You don't know what anxieties your other children may be harboring. And we want to have really harmonious relationships with the siblings. And once I told Mallory that that really was not the plan, I mean, look, of course I hope at some point they're going to be great and interact with one another, and they all sort of live on the same strip on Henry Avenue. But it's not her role. Quite frankly, her boyfriend is better with Amanda than she is. He picks her up, they watch Eagles games, and it's really kind of cool. You know what I mean? But so I'm just going to sort of start out with that. Something to just be thinking in the back of your mind, okay? So how can we make sure that our child does have that financial foundation for a secure, meaningful life when we are no longer here? I know that that keeps me up at night. So hopefully we can give you some answers here. So who should be involved in the process? Obviously the parents, the caregivers, the primary caregivers. And we have to talk about guardians versus trustees, okay? We are our children's guardian until they are 18. And a lot of people don't realize that. Once your children are 18, HIPAA, while it has done so many wonderful things, it really has impacted on our ability to access medical information. If the children are in college and are having an issue and you need to talk to a dean, they may not talk to us unless you have a power of attorney. And I said this in the other session, and a couple parents came up to me. Even your other children who may not be dealing with medical or intellectual challenges, they could have a car accident, they could be in an accident, for $90 or $16.50 on LegalZoom, get a power of attorney, okay? Doesn't have to last forever. Your child basically will sign off on it, and it will make all the difference in the world. You don't want your child to be in Florida in a car accident and you can't find out what happened. Until you get there, you're going to probably just stop breathing yourself. Okay, trustees are different than the guardian. The guardian is responsible for the person. The trustee is responsible for the money. So when you are doing your wills and you are thinking about, what life is going to look like for your son or daughter, you may have somebody in mind that you feel could care for the child on their day-to-day needs. And again, it doesn't mean living with them. You'll see my daughter lives independently. She has her own apartment, but somebody on a daily basis has to be in touch with her to coordinate her transportation, her care management, if she's sick, any additional medicational needs. But the trustee is the person that is managing the money. And as long as I'm alive, my wife and I are the trustees. Okay, it's not like old estate planning where the money, you can't have access to your money or it's going to become taxable, right? You are the trustee typically of your child's special needs trust while they are alive. Now, I will preface this that in January, the estate tax laws, there is some pending legislation that's up now that, for those of you who may recall, it recently went up to 5.4 million, or you can pass over 10 if it's a husband and wife. It was 3.5 million. Before that, it was $1 million. Before that, it was 250,000. We've seen a lot of changes in estate tax law. They're saying that it's going to go back to 3.5. So we do need to be aware of what is happening on a estate tax level, because that will impact our special needs trust and our special needs planning. If any of you live in New Jersey, New Jersey has a state estate tax. If you have over $675,000 of assets, well, that could be a house for $400,000, a retirement account with a couple $100,000, an insurance policy. You're going to be over $675,000. So my families who live in New Jersey have to have a special needs trust that's inside an irrevocable trust. Little more complicated, okay? But the trustee is the person that is overseeing the money of that trust. Okay? We'll talk more about that. Right now, like I said, it's you. Ultimately, you want it to be somebody that you trust with your money. In your packet is a letter of intent. The letter of intent is where, unlike the will that basically just says, this is the guardian, this is the trustee, the executor is going to do this, the letter of intent will guide anybody who is caring for your child about their medical needs, their doctors, their social activities, their religious activities, all the other activities that are so important that we have up in our heads, but nobody else knows. Okay? My daughter cannot swallow pills. They have to be ground up. They have to be put in chocolate pudding, okay, or ice cream. Who's going to know that, right? Unless I direct that in some type of a letter of instruction. My daughter's afraid of clowns. The first time I remember we went away, somebody took her to the circus. You know what I mean? Like, not that they're trying to be mean, but they just don't know, right? They just don't know. So again, we don't necessarily think of those things. And then obviously, who are the advisors and organizations that support our children? We're getting a lot of support from the foundation. We're getting a lot of support from other maybe social, recreational programs. Whoever is ultimately caring for our children need to be aware of where we are accessing those services. All right, so special needs estate planning provides a lifetime of guidance. It coordinates what you're doing with the government programs. It provides supplemental funding. We're going to talk a lot about that, supplemental funding. It requires family support, and it requires the implementation of a comprehensive plan. You know, if you do not have a will, the state of Pennsylvania has a will for you. 1/3 goes to the spouse, 2/3 go to the children. Everybody thinks it goes to your spouse. 1/3 goes to the spouse, 2/3 go to the children. Well, if you have a child that is on Medicaid, that has a Medicaid access card, or is receiving any type of waiver services, if they have more than $2,000 in their name, that waiver goes goodbye. And you know how long it takes you to get those services. You know how difficult it is dealing with Social Security. You know how difficult it is when we are alive and we are doing it, okay? How about when our children are left, or somebody who really has not spent 30 years invested with your child is now left with, okay, what do we do? So you really want to make sure that you have your affairs set up properly. A simple will, again, it'll allow you to direct how things are going to go, but certainly doesn't address the comprehensive issues of our children. Okay? Having that special needs trust that has its own tax ID number and serves as the vehicle to hold assets for our child so that their government benefits are not compromised. Okay? We talk about, and I know this is sensitive, but you could have everything done perfectly. Okay? You come to these workshops, you do what you're told, and then your parents or your ex-spouse, okay, does nothing and jeopardizes everything that you've done. Okay? These are conversations that you need to have. And you know, it's hard. My niece, and this was at Thanksgiving a few years ago. I have a single niece, very successful. She works for the state of New York. And you could just about imagine, we're at Thanksgiving. She says, oh, by the way, Uncle Bruce, Amanda's going to get my 401k when I die. And as I threw up all over the table, right? You know, it's like, okay, and then I start crying, right? Because I'm like an emotional mess. I was like, oh, it can't go to Amanda. It has to go to the Bruce and Hildy Special Needs Trust dated August 1st, 2002. Here's the tax ID number. Let's go upstairs. Hold the turkey, okay? Let's go upstairs and let's change it online, right? Okay. Okay, but you know what? You don't know about that single aunt who may not have anybody to give money to. And again, you don't talk about it. You might say to your mom, what is Aunt Mary doing? You know, oh, no, don't worry. She'll surprise you. Well, you don't want that surprise. Okay, that's a surprise we don't want, okay? So please, I beg you, you need to have those conversations, okay? We're going to talk about government benefits, Social Security, 5-year look back. Many of us who may have tried to access services for our children when they were little or maybe first diagnosed, we were denied because it's based on our income. When the children turn 18, it is based on their income, okay? Many of our children don't have competitive incomes at 18, but they may have resources. Well, if there's a 5-year look back, if Social Security sees that the day before we go, you take $20,000 out of their bank account, they're not going to like that. So how do we begin to now, at what point do we start charging our children rent? Do we start making our children pay for their cell phones? Okay, again, it can be on paper, but we need to show the state, we need to show the government that our children, we are teaching our children to be independent. I have many families that say to me they're only getting $400 a month from Social Security. And if they are, that's because they're not charging their children rent. And I said, you know, when you are no longer here, somebody is going to charge them rent. Even if it's just $325 a month to live in a room in a house with kitchen privileges, washer dryer privileges, and how about writing a check? You know, it takes my daughter 45 minutes to write a check, but that is one of the more important things that she does. And if I don't let her do it, she's like, you paid my bills this month, Dad. I'm not independent. I'm not paying my own bills. She gets very angry with me if she can't write those checks. So you know what? When I send in my Verizon bill, she can write a check for $29 and I can put it with my $110 check. She makes one out to Verizon. I make one out to Verizon. They cash it. The bill gets paid. And she feels very proud of herself. All right, and we're going to also talk about the importance of making sure that we take care of ourselves as well. Because you know what? We are living longer, and we need to have some type of quality of life for ourselves, right? Caregivers are the ones that burn out the most, right? And you need to be able to take some time for yourself. Okay, again, I have to get used to this. Okay, so there are basically 9 steps to the planning process. First, we have to identify where are the children going to live. I just attended a conference at University of Pennsylvania. There are 190,000 children being serviced. 144,000 of them still live at home. This is the state's great plan for our children. 37,000 live in some type of community housing, and 27,000 live in a program like my daughter, independently with support. So what is that housing going to look like for you? What additional education and training and support will they need in that housing environment? For those of you who have children that are getting ready to graduate, and OVR and some of the wonderful services that become available are placing our children in jobs. Well, when the OVR runs out, do you have waiver services in place to provide job coaches and to help your child be successful at work? While your children are still in school, okay, our children can stay in school till they're 21. Just because they are 18, if they have an IEP or a 504, they do not have to graduate. Now you may say, well, my daughter doesn't want to just sit there and do nothing. Of course not. The school district should be providing support for some of the wonderful college programs that are now available. They're required to provide the transportation to get to those programs. And I'm telling you, they didn't have this when my daughter was little. Westchester, Chestnut Hill, St. Joe's, Eastern, Temple University. Fabulous, fabulous programs for our children with support so that they can be successful. Villanova, okay? Unbelievable. Get your school district involved in that. You have to be advocating for your child, or they're just going to take the route of least resistance and just, okay, well, stay here till 21, fine. You're going to go work in the kitchen and serve salad. Okay, fine, that's it. Get involved, be there, be a part of it. Social and religious. Okay, many of our children, their religious experience growing up may be their first inclusive experience, something that's very important. An ultimate caregiver may not be aware of that. Okay, so if that's important, make sure you put it in their life care plan or their letter of intent. The different residential programs that are available are very open now. I've spoken at many, many, many different organizations, Mennonite organizations, Presbyterian organizations, Jewish organizations. They are all open to all faiths and all the clients. They need to understand our children and what our needs are. Okay, I'm trying not to get upset when I talk about safety. It's something I added recently to this program. Our children are the most vulnerable, okay? And while, I always told Amanda she can do anything and have anything in her life that she wants, they are vulnerable. So I beg you, just with whatever we do, make sure, for $30 a month, Comcast, you can have pictures. Okay, if they're living independently, I can see everybody that comes and goes. This is my favorite. I didn't even say this at the other session. The caregivers that are billing me, right? And they tell me that they're there at 2:30 and they leave at 7:30. Well, her apartment takes a picture when you walk in the door. So I see that they arrive at 4:30, right? They eat my food, they eat dinner, and then they leave, right? I mean, it's really hard. I mean, it really is hard. But you got to get good people. You got to get people that you can trust. And but I have for $30 a month the pictures, the camera. I can see Amanda in the apartment, and I can sort of monitor her safety, and it'll notify the police or fire if there's ever an issue, and I'm not there, because that's always a big fear of the families, right? When we're no longer there, right? What's going to be in place? Medical care. Make sure the children do not lose their Medicaid access card. Ultimately, they will qualify for Medicare. If you yourself are retired and getting Social Security, your children are eligible for Medicare as a result of your benefit. A lot of families don't know that, okay? Everybody always thinks that you only get it if you die. My wife is 62 years old. She is fully retired, pension from the school district. She is getting her Social Security at 62, and Amanda, Social Security went from $734 a month to $1,250 because my daughter can access my wife's benefit. Isn't that interesting? And my wife is getting $1,730. Now, some of her friends say, well, why would you do that? If you wait till 66, you could get $2,000. Well, everybody's different, okay? My wife is older than me. When I turn 66, my wife's going to get $2,500, so she's not losing anything. And do the math. We're getting $2,900 a month for the next 4 years that we would not have had if we waited, and that is what is helping pay for my daughter's independence. It costs me $64 a day for her to earn $28 a day at her job. Okay, I'm a really good financial planner. Right? But you know what? Her going to work is like the most important thing to her, right? She loves going to work. And I really got tired of waiting for, some of these public, since I'm being videotaped, I have to be careful. Some of these public services that come early, that leave late, right? And she was just stranded. And she would have to go 45 minutes early to make sure she was there because they're allowed to come 15 minutes early, 15 minutes late. So we used to have them come 45 minutes early. So if they were 15 minutes late, she would still be there on time, right? So, okay. And the children can stay on your insurance if you are still working. They don't come off of the insurance at age 26. As long as you are still working, the children can stay on your insurance. Don't let your employers tell you otherwise. It is a law that they can stay on our insurance. So, but you still don't want them to lose their Medicaid. Medicaid, if the children do ultimately need some kind of long-term care or nursing care, Medicaid will pay for that. Medicare will not. Okay. Why do I have final arrangements on there? A lot of times families say to me, okay, Bruce, my child's 12, 13. You told me, 5 years before they're 18, we need to start planning. I've got $20,000 from, birthdays and Christmas and holidays. What do I do with the money? Again, we have to start charging the children rent and showing that and rent has to be appropriate, okay? How many people are in the house? If I was renting a room from you, what would you charge me? $300 a month to use the room, the bathroom, maybe use the washer and dryer. I buy my own food, I have my own cell phone, and these are charges that you would allocate to your child. Again, someday they're going to be on their own. We are teaching them how to do this. And then I put the money in her special needs trust. I'm not using that money to buy a new suit. I'm using that money and I'm putting it in her special needs trust, which is protected from the $2,000 asset limit that the government requires. There's another folder in there that's all about special needs trusts. There are 3 types of special needs trusts. There is the self-funded trust, which was developed by the government in 1993 when they said, you know what, when the Ober Act was passed, our children, if they have assets, they should not lose their medical benefits, right? Because they're not gainfully employed. They're not getting health insurance at work. So we don't want them to lose the Medicaid. But if Aunt Mary died and left her $300,000, that money gets paid back to the government when the child dies. Okay, it was better than nothing, right? I mean, don't look a gift horse in the mouth, right? We have to take what we get. But now there is what they call a third-party special needs trust, where it is you and your spouse are basically the settlers or the grantors of the trust, and it is for the benefit of your child's supplemental needs, and it can then get paid to your other children or to the Epilepsy Foundation. They like when I say that. It can get paid to a charity, the church, okay? But it doesn't have to get paid back to the government. And again, I'm not adverse to paying taxes and having money go to the government, but often when you are doing your planning, I would say that fair isn't always equal, okay? We all have limited resources. Again, you have to live. I may need to have more money for my daughter than I do for my other two. I paid for college, I pay for weddings, I pay for cars, I pay for, right, every time they need money. Quite frankly, they ask me for money more than Amanda does, okay? Amanda never asks for anything. I'm like, man, please go buy something, you know? No, I mean, the other two, I mean, are always asking me for money, okay? So in my supplemental needs trust, Amanda actually is getting 60% of our assets. Now, I'm not telling you that's what you have to do. A lot of families have no, it has to be equal. I even have this one lawyer that I work with, you know, if the other children are younger, well, we want to make sure that they go to college or go to medical school. And so it doesn't have to get divided until the youngest child is done with the care, with the support. I thought that was very creative. But ultimately, whatever was left, 60% goes to Amanda, in my case, 20-20 to Mallory and Seth. When Amanda will pass, her trust that had 60% of the assets goes 50-50 to Mallory and Seth. Okay? So I said, guys, you're going to get it. You're going to get it sooner or later, or your kids are going to get it. Okay? And maybe they'll be a little nicer to her, you know, like knowing that it's coming, you know, like, so if you're not nice, you know, I'm still controlling it from above, you know, so, okay. All right, so let's just continue. We talked about guardians, right? Whether or not you are caring for the child or you are actually doing what we call I hate to use the word declaring our children incompetent, but unfortunately, sometimes that is, you know, again, if your children not only are medically fragile, but have intellectual issues and you feel that you need to do a formal guardianship, you're going to have to do it, okay? The power of attorney can work well if the child is able to sign and that understands that mom and dad are acting on their behalf. The downside to that is that, again, there are a lot of people that take advantage of the children. Somebody could come in and say, you know what? You know that red Porsche that you liked? Let's get it. I know your dad's got a couple $1 million laying in that trust, okay? Here, sign here, Amanda. Amanda's got immaculate credit, right? And all of a sudden, you know, they're driving away in that car, okay? Now, that can happen. People take advantage of our children. I just did a video on Alzheimer's, and we see it in our elderly, where all of a sudden dad has this new friend. This new friend shows up, and they're going to the bank and pulling out money left and right? Oh, but dad's driving in that red Porsche, right? He's happy, right? But meanwhile, that's what happened. Our kids,
they're driving away in that car,
right? So you really have to be on top of that, okay? You really have to be on top of it. And remember I talked about the trustee being the person managing the money, the guardian managing the person.
Has this new friend. This new friend shows up,
and
they're going to the bank and pulling out money
even in the
left and
best of
right,
families. So, but I mean, that is the problem, and that's why you have to you do need to review this periodically.
You really have to be on top of that, okay?
Now, of course, sometimes families, you do, it is one person, and you obviously, or you could do a co. Okay, you could do like a co-trustee. So maybe your sister says, no, we are doing this, and then the brother's going, well, are you sure we should be doing this?
Left and right,
and then the sister says, well, look, my other sister, you being the sister, always said
it's the same thing.
That they want Amanda to go on the destination wedding, or do you see what I mean? Like somebody's going to be a little more thrifty.
It is one
the other
person, and you're
going to be a little tight.
Or you
right?
could it's checks. You could do like a coach doing this.
So what are the costs? Today and tomorrow, we do have to look at inflation.
Left and right.
Guess what? This is going to be the first year that Social Security isn't inflating our benefit.
That's right. It's the same thing.
A lot of changes coming up next year. There are proposed changes, again, in the estate tax law. They could go from 5.4 million that you can pass down to 3.5.
Okay.
So now those of us who have money in special needs trust might have to set up an irrevocable trust so that our special needs trust monies are not taxed at 40 or 45%, whatever rate they they allocate.
a lot
If
of
you live in New
changes coming
Jersey,
because
if you have more than
things change,
$675,000,
Financial
they
strategy.
have a
Of course,
state
sometimes
estate tax.
federal, they
A
could go
lot of
from
moving parts here that you
5.4
have to pay
million that you
attention
can
to.
pass down to 3.5.
Okay,
So
so
now those of us who have
government
money in
benefits,
special
what are the
needs
supplemental
trusts,
funding,
my
gifts and
sister-in-law
inheritances,
do have to look at inflation.
legal settlements.
Trust
Some of our
monies are
children
not
may
taxed
have
at 40
suffered
or
their seizure
45%,
disorder as a
whatever
result
rate
of an
they
accident, right,
allocate.
or a traumatic birth
If you live
injury,
in New Jersey,
and they may
you
have
more than
been awarded funds or have
$675,000.
assets.
Now, of course,
That,
sometimes
unfortunately,
federal,
has
they
to
could
be
go
in
from
that first
5.4
party over
million
93
that you-
trust. That is the child's money.
Okay, so
that money will ultimately get paid
Government
back to the
benefits,
government.
what are the supplemental
Okay?
funding?
It's
gifts
only
and
money that maybe you
inheritances.
set up through
Oh,
life
legal
insurance
settlements.
or
Trust
from
monies
other
are not
people,
taxed
right, that
at
you're
40 or
funding this trust with
45% of
that
an
can be
accident,
named to go
right,
to
or a traumatic
your
birth
other
injury,
siblings or
and they may
charities
have
or
been awarded
organizations.
funds to
We
be
talked
in
about
that
the power of attorney. We talked about updating your wills.
$million that you to the
Talked
government.
about the
Benefits, what are
trustees.
the
Now,
Okay.
just as we were
It's
saying
only
about
money
the
that
checks and
maybe you set
balances,
up through life
I also
insurance
worry about,
or
okay,
from other
ultimately,
people,
do
right,
I
that you're
have like a
funding this
bank
trust
or an
with? Does that
organization,
make
a
sense?
professional
Right,
organization,
or
somehow
okay,
connected,
traumatic birth injury,
because
and they
families
may
don't
have
live
been
forever,
awarded
people
organization.
move,
They're doing better
what if
this
my
time.
other
It only
kids
has to
move,
be
or,
in that
obviously my
that
older
first party
sister-in-laws and
4 million that you
brother-in-laws
pay back to the
are
government.
not going to
Talked
be
about
alive
the
forever.
trustees.
Do I
Now,
name, like
just
a
as we were
Haverford
saying
Bryn Mawr
about the
Trust
checks and balances,
as a
I also worry
co-trustee?
about, okay,
These are things that you
ultimately,
want to look
you know,
at.
do I have
Some of
funding
them
this trust
have
with?
limits.
Does that make sense?
So it does
Right, or
prohibit
connected,
everyone from
because
accessing them.
Families don't
They might
live
have
forever.
limits of what
People
can be in the
move,
trust. People ask me
what
all
if
the
my
time, well,
other
Bruce,
kids
how do you fund a
move, or,
trust? I
you
mean,
know, obviously
I'm not
my
making a
older
fortune. I don't have all
sister-in-laws
that
and
money.
brother-in-law
Well,
pay back
life
to the
insurance
government.
is a
Talked
great
about the
vehicle to fund a
trustees.
trust
Now,
with. Because you can
just as we
spend,
were
I always say you can
trust,
spend all your money while you're alive.
As a
And when you're
co-trustee,
dead, the insurance goes in
these
the
are
trust,
things that you want
and
to
it
look
starts all
at.
over.
Some of them
There are
have
vehicles
limits,
that you can use
so it
that
does
actually have
prohibit
death benefit
connected,
features
because
when you're rolling
families
over
don't
your
live forever.
retirement.
People
If
move.
you spend
People
it
ask me all
down,
the time, well, Bruce,
is
how do
there a
you
death
fund
benefit
trust? I mean,
feature that
you know,
can fund a
I'm
trust?
not making a
Not
fortune.
everybody's
I don't have all
insurable.
that money.
Right? If you're not
Well,
insurable,
life
then
insurance
the insurance
is a great
option
vehicle
goes
to
away.
fund a trust with.
So when you're looking
just
at
as we were
different
trust,
retirement options,
the
what
insurance goes in
are
the
some of the
trust,
features
and it
that may
starts
be
all over.
available that you
There
want to
are
take advantage
vehicles
of?
that
And
you
these are
can
the things
use,
that we do.
that
Okay,
actually have
somebody
death
asked me in the
benefit
earlier
features.
it's my
When
role.
you're rolling over
That's
your
what we do.
retirement,
We help put it
people
all
ask me all the
together.
time, well, Bruce,
So
how do you
that,
fund
and
a
I do the
trust?
Social
I mean,
Security
not
funding. I
everybody's
serve as an
insurable,
advocate
right?
for
If
you
you're not
with
insurable,
the school district.
then the insurance option
And I
goes
take you to the
away.
lawyer to
So
make sure that your
when you're
documents
looking
are
at
up to date.
different, retirement
There's no
options,
charge for a
the
consultation
insurance
with
goes in
me.
the
We
trust,
are down
and
the
it starts
street
all over, that
where
you wanna
Saxford
take
Avenue
advantage
is,
of. And these
to
are the
Bala.
things that we do.
Okay, but this has always been my
somebody asked me,
commitment. I've been working
when
with
you're rolling
epilepsy now
over your
for
retirement,
almost
that's what
10
we
years
do.
at
We
least.
help put it all together.
So there's no charge for that. I do get paid through the sale of insurance and investments, and that's how
I take you to the lawyer to make sure that your documents are up to date.
So we talked about the trust.
For a consultation
there is a
with me
third
or
trust
down the
that's called a
street,
pooled
where
trust.
Saxford Avenue.
I really do urge you to please be careful if you are looking at a pooled trust. Some of our children are in residential programs that have their own pooled trust.
There's no charge for that.
And again, I'm not saying that anything's bad, especially since I'm being videotaped.
And I take you to the lawyer.
Since, it is an organization-run trust.
So we talked about the trust.
Often the money will stay with the organization, so you may think that you're putting it there and it will care for your child, but then go to your other children.
My commitment.
And some of them have both. Okay, some do have both.
Years at least.
But if you don't ask, okay, are they going to automatically just put it in the one that stays with the organization? And if your intent wasn't to go to your other children, just please, I urge you to just ask. Okay,
so we talked about the money
because they often have much lower limits.
That you're putting it
okay,
there,
so if you don't have
your child, but then
$500,000,
go to your other children.
I mean, that's usually like the minimum for like the banks.
Some do.
Okay, some of them are even up at $1 million.
That have their own.
And again, don't think that that's so overwhelming. I mean, we all have homes. They're worth a few $100,000. You have retirement and insurance.
Other children.
Yeah, that's where that book came in. A Millionaire Next Door.
Just ask.
It's not that hard to have $1 million when you look at all the assets. But the pool trust will typically allow you to have maybe $5,000.
$500,000.
But it may not be able to service all your needs. So I just urge you to please be aware of that.
And again, don't.
I think we're almost
and
done.
you with the organization and
and we talked about the methods for funding.
Yeah, that's where that book
often
came in,
the Social Security payment can be used to help fund these things, right? Just as I outlined with my wife, how we were able to access some more money. Now, again, Social Security is under scrutiny in January. They're going to look at, how people access it. In our case, totally legitimate. My wife is truly retired. But often we hear about, you can apply and suspend your benefit and let your child get the higher benefit. You're probably going to be doing away with that.
Can be used.
But if you truly are able to go out on your own and the child accesses your benefit,
some more
that's certainly an
money.
option.
Now, again,
if the child is working for 10 years and has their own Social Security,
in our
that
case,
can also
totally
be another
legitimate.
option.
My
right?
wife is
But
truly
you have to
retired.
Social Security isn't going to
But often we
contact
hear
you and
about,
say, "Oh,
you can apply
reapply."
and suspend your benefit and let your child get the higher
They're just not. I had a young lady. She was 45. Her father passed away in his late 80s. They had been turned down when she was little. She had Down syndrome, so obviously it was very visible that she had a disability. But it was based on her father's income.
And has their own
She got turned down when she was 18 because she had resources. Nobody educated the family on what to do. I meet her sister, her 53-year-old sister, at one of these workshops.
Okay.
We got the young lady $1,845
I had
a
a
month
young lady, she was 45.
Because she was getting her father's benefit
to go out on your own.
But all these years, it was over 100.
Visible.
Oh my God, it was over $400,000 of benefits that she had basically lost. They'll only go back 6 months.
She got turned down when she was 18 because she had resources.
So
Nobody
you really want to make sure that you stay on top of that.
Social Security isn't going to contact you and say,
if you are divorced, if it's a second marriage, if there are multiple partners involved. I have a lot of grandparents that are raising children. You really want to look at, what's the best way to access those benefits. And every situation is different. So sort of in summary, you want to make sure that you do hold family meetings, that things will change.
You really want to make sure
you are agreeing on the ultimate details. Make sure your documents are up to date. This new ABLE Act is coming out. There's a lot of questions about it. It does allow your children to have resources in their own name. Many of the states have not even figured out what are the funding vehicles. I read an awesome article. It's on my Facebook page. I'm trying to get it on my LinkedIn, but I'll put it on any mailing list. It's a very current article about the ABLE Act, and basically they're saying that it probably won't be available until 2016.
Children, you really to have resources in their own name.
Pennsylvania or New Jersey on the list.
States have not
Florida actually has a product. It actually operates under the 529 Act. So if you have like a 529 plan for your children, this is going to be a 529A. It serves in the same
very current
capacity.
article about the ABLE
Grows
Act.
tax-free, comes out tax-free. You're the trustee. You make the decisions.
Be available until
again, there is no product yet, and if your state hasn't embraced it, because the government unanimously endorsed it at the end of last year.
What are the funding vehicles?
The states now have to embrace it, and then they have to decide: is it going to be a bank that's going to fund it? Is it going to be American funds, Fidelity funds? Who's going to fund it? So we're waiting for that. That's another vehicle that you can use, but it only goes up to 100,000. Okay. I mean, once you hit 100,000, if you have more than that in there, pay back to the government, and all the benefits stop. That is going to be like the biggest thing.
On my LinkedIn for your children.
You don't want the child's benefits to stop. It took me 13 years to get waivers for my daughter.
Who's going to fund it?
Okay, I don't want that to stop because of some foolish mistake. Because somebody left her money, right, or a law changed and we weren't on top of it, and then all of a sudden she gets to the bottom of the list. And at University of Pennsylvania a couple of weeks ago, I attended a conference. There are 14,000 people on waiting lists.
This is going to be a 529.
There are now waiting lists for the waiting list.
Who's going to fund it? So we're waiting.
And if our children are trying to access over waivers or the ID waiver or some of the different waivers,
right, or a state hasn't embraced,
you really need to stay close with your sports coordinator, with your transition team, and make sure you have your affairs in place.
That is going to be like 13,000
time for any questions? Okay.
Going to fund it. And if our children are trying to access over waivers, somebody left her money waivers.
I believe it is too. Okay, so you can have a trust under your will, or you can have a living trust.
With your transition
basically, it's just a
team,
tax ID number at the bank. You have to find out what the bank minimum
like
is.
I said,
so that because
like people
Wells Fargo, it's now
lists.
$1,500. It was $150.
To fund it. So
all of a sudden I see they take $750 every month because it's not really funded. I had put $150 in there because that way, if somebody does leave you money, you have a place to put it until you decide where you want to invest it.
And make sure you have your affairs in place.
Typically, a trust that's
like I
created
said,
in your will,
so that,
well,
you know,
it
'cause,
doesn't
like,
exist. If
Wells
your mom
Fargo,
wants,
it's
if your
now
mom passes,
$1,500.
and her will says it goes to your trust, but you're still alive and your
And if
trust
our
isn't
children are
created
trying
yet.
to access
So that's why they're saying have one that's really not funded.
I believe it is too.
but
Okay, so somebody
can
does
receive
leave you
money, should somebody
you have a
leave
place
your
to
son
put
or
it
daughter
until you
money.
decide.
Does that make sense?
And make sure
okay,
you
but
have
that
it.
is a separate document that needs to be drafted as
like
its
I
own
said,
tax ID
so
number.
that, you know,
and
'cause,
again,
like,
you just find a
Wells
vehicle
Fargo,
that
it's
you
now
want to receive the
$1,500.
money.
And her will
what
says
is
it
the
goes to your
minimum
trust,
that
but you're still alive
financial
and your trust
institution
isn't trying to access.
requires?
Okay,
My
so
company, I've been doing financial services for 37 years. My company came to me 11 years ago and said, we are going to invest money in this because how many people just really don't know, right? You get your first job, you do your life insurance beneficiaries, wife if living, children of marriage equally, right? Now all of a sudden, 30 years later, you're like, oh my God, I have a child with special needs. I got to change it. Right? I mean, nobody knows. Advisors don't even ask you, do you have a child with special needs? They say, what are the names of your children? You say Mary, John, and Joe, right? And, but that is exactly why we do this.
You do your life insurance beneficiaries, wife if living, children and marriage equally, right? Now all of a sudden, 30 years later, you're like, oh my God, I have a child with special needs. I got to change it, right? I mean, nobody...